Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Kenny Albert, standing by, are sponsored by Passant Motors. Celebrate Father's Day. Rick, it's just around the corner. With some amazing deals. Visit their showroom in Surrey or shop online at Passant Motors, BASANT Motors.com. Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final Tuesday in Vegas. Knights, they can wrap her up 3-1 on Florida. Kenny Albert is doing the call for the NHL on TNT, and he joins us now. Kenny, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Very well. You've been doing this in this business for a long time, doing hockey play-by-play. Did you ever think you would be doing a Stanley Cup Final in Nevada and Florida?
Well, when I was a youngster growing up in New York, rooting for the Vancouver Canucks and compiling scrapbooks and cutting out all of the Canucks box scores from 3,000 miles away, no, I don't think I ever would have expected a Stanley Cup Final involving a team in Vegas and a team in Florida, but it's been a fun series. Here we are back in Vegas, traveled back from Fort Lauderdale yesterday, and looking forward to Game 5 tomorrow night.
And for people who don't know, Kenny, what sparked your love way back then for the Vancouver Canucks?
It's a great question. It was in the mid-1970s, around 74, 75. I was 6 years old and lived on Long Island, and obviously had the Rangers and Islanders around, and then the Devils came in 6 or 7 years later. But I'm not sure if it was the uniforms, the original green and blue, before they went to red, yellow, and black. And then once they made the switch, my room was actually painted in the Canucks colors, first green and blue, and then red, yellow, and black. In fact, I ran into Kurt Fraser the other night. He was in Florida for Game 4, and I was reminiscing with Kurt along with Colin Campbell about some of my Canucks memories from back in the day.
All the uniform changes the Canucks went through, you would have went through a lot of paint through the years. Have I got that right?
A lot of money purchasing the new jerseys whenever they made the switch.
Yeah. Hey, Nevada and Florida, is that good for the National Hockey League, having two teams make the Stanley Cup Final from those two sunshine states?
Yeah, I think it's great. There's been so much interest in this series. It's the southernmost Stanley Cup Final of all time, and even in the previous round of the conference final, you had Dallas and Carolina as well. But ever since Wayne Gretzky went to Los Angeles in 1988, and then expansion, and first it was San Jose, and then some of the other Sun Belt teams, Tampa Bay, Florida, Vegas 6 years ago. It's obviously raised the interest in both of those cities, whether it's Vegas or the Sunrise, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. And they went to the final early back in 96 in their third year. Vegas went to the final in their first year. So they have rabid fan bases. The excitement and energy level in both buildings has been outstanding over the first 4 games.
Kenny, Matthew Tkachuk, what can we say about him? He's tied for the playoff lead, 24 points. We don't know if he's going to play tomorrow night. Your thoughts on him missing some time in Game 4? What happened? What are your thoughts? It's a lot of intrigue around Tkachuk heading into Game 5.
There certainly is, and he's been magnificent throughout these playoffs. I called the Carolina series along with Eddie Olczyk and Keith Jones and Jackie Redmond, and he had the 2 overtime winners, of course, the 4 overtime game, and then the series winner with seconds remaining on the clock in Game 4. It's been well documented in this series, what's gone on as far as, whether it was the misconduct penalties early on over the first 2 games, 3 and 2 games for Tkachuk, and then, what appears to be some type of an arm shoulder issue. We had the shot of him skating off the ice after a couple of his shifts, favoring that part of his body. And then he comes back and nearly ties the game in the final second after sitting out 10 and a half minutes during the third period. So I'm about to head over to both Golden Knights and Panthers practice right after we finish up. So it'll be interesting to hear what Matthew Tkachuk has to say, what head coach Paul Maurice has to say about his status for tomorrow. But you guys know how hockey players are. I would not be shocked at all if he's in the lineup tomorrow night.
Absolutely, Kenny. A couple of stats that jump out at me. First of all, Vegas is outscoring Florida 17-9. But the other one is the Panthers haven't scored a power play goal, and Vegas has got 6. They got to start and capitalize on the power play, Kenny.
No, absolutely. That's been a huge issue obviously. Florida did score a shorthanded goal. It was the first goal of the series by Eric Stahl, but Vegas is outscoring them 6-0 on the power play. They had 2 in game 1, 2 in game 2, 2 in game 3. Florida finally cut down on the penalties. They took only 1 in game 4 until the scrap at the end of the game, but Vegas only had the 1 power play. But if Florida wants to have a chance to extend this series and head back home, special teams, I'm sure, will be one of the keys given what we've seen over the first 3 games.
Okay, Kenny, so you are going way back when, a long-suffering Canucks fan. The Vegas Golden Knights are in their 6th year, on the verge of winning the Stanley Cup. What's impressed you about that hockey team?
Well, I was there in '82 at the first 2 games at Nassau Coliseum. I could still see Harold Snaps throwing the puck up the middle. Talking about that with Coley Campbell the other day as well. But Vegas, just so impressive right from year 1, and you have to give so much credit to the management, Kelly McCrimmon, George McPhee, for the moves that they made prior to the expansion draft. And the biggest one was the 2 players who came from Florida, Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault. So they wound up going to the final that first year, which was an unbelievable story, lose to the Washington Capitals in 5. And their owner, Bill Foley, said prior to that season his goal was playoffs in year 3, Cup in year 6. Here we are in year 6. They're only 1 win away.
Hey, Kenny, I know you're biased, but the ESPN TNT deal, has it been beneficial to the National Hockey League?
Well, I worked for NBC for about a decade, and NBC did a terrific job just raising the profile of hockey in the United States. And TNT and ESPN have taken over the last 2 years, and I can't really speak for the ESPN portion of it, but I think the executives at TNT did just a magnificent job in putting together not only the broadcast teams at the game, but the studio crew with Liam McHugh, Paul Bissonnette, Anson Carter. Last year it was Rick Tocchet, and of course Wayne Gretzky. And this year Henrik Lundqvist has come in, and so many terrific reviews, positive reviews, in particular during the Stanley Cup Final, when the crew has been on the road with us, and the synergy between the pregame show, the postgame show, the intermissions, and the game crew. I get to work with Eddie Olczyk, Keith Jones all season long, 2 unbelievable partners, and now we're going to lose Jonesy to his new gig as president of hockey operations with the Flyers. We've had Jackie Redmond and Darren Pang with us during the playoffs. So as far as the reviews from outside the TNT world, they've been spectacular. We had Charles Barkley with us for the last 2 games in Florida. He was on the set on the pregame show prior to Game 4. So can't say enough about my friends and colleagues here at TNT over the last 2 seasons.
Hey, Kenny, just before we let you go, Harold Snaps has just texted me. Would it be okay if I sent your contact information to him? He wants to have a word with you.
He was one of my favorite players. Like I said, I had scrapbooks, and I would cut out the box score. And later on, I wound up as a roommate of Barry Trotz, and with the Baltimore Skipjacks. He was our assistant coach. I was the radio broadcaster. And I know Barry and Harold had crossed paths, up in Western Canada, and I've heard a lot of things about him. So I'm only kidding, Harold. You were a great Canuck.
No, I know people don't like to bring up that moment, but it is part of Canucks history. Harold was much more than that moment. Kenny, thanks so much for this. All the best. Have a good call in Game 5 and, of course, going forward.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
You bet. Kenny Albert, NHL, and he's been around for a long, long time.